All right, everybody, welcome back to Horn Takes Live. Folks, we got 4 days until Texas football, and I got a special guest tonight. I'm excited about that. I've been trying to get him on the show. We just couldn't make it work, but now we have. I've got Nash from Nash Talks Texas. How you doing tonight, Nash?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Sean?
I'm doing all right, man. Thanks for joining us tonight. 4 days
Appreciate
until college football, 4 days until Texas football. And when I think about this, I think about Roy Williams. We've been doing countdowns. Everybody's been kind of doing their own countdown on Twitter. I think of Roy Williams and the Cotton Bowl against LSU, just absolutely shredding those guys. What is your favorite Texas number 4 moment?
To be honest, I'm way too young to actually remember. Like, I was way too young to actually remember anything that Roy Williams did. But
that's crazy.
I can say this, like, I do remember getting this. I remember Roy Williams signing my helmet. This is my favorite moment. And I believe he was number 11 at the time. I may be wrong, but he might have been it might have been like his true freshman season. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that, but I'm just going off my childhood memory.
But I hear you. You're too young to remember it. I'm too old to remember it. So I guess we're meeting in the middle on that.
He signed my helmet, and the funny thing is, I actually wore the signature off because I played in the damn thing too much.
I hear you, man. That's the way it goes. Before we get started tonight, check us out on Twitter. We're at Horn Takes on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, everything, TikTok. At Horn Takes, that's where you can find us. So I was scrolling through Twitter. I just joined Twitter, maybe a couple months ago, actually, and started using it. One of the first Texas guys I see is Nash Talks Texas. I start following him. He said something the other day on Twitter that just made me go, I got to get Nash on the show. Nash has got 3,500 followers on Twitter. So then I said, well, I wonder if he does any YouTube stuff. Went and checked him out on YouTube, and he does. He's got 4,000 subscribers on YouTube. So Nash is kicking my ass on subscribers. He has been doing this a little bit longer than me, though, and he's probably way cooler than me anyway. I think you got videos going back to 2021, right, Nash?
I do have some. I did have some that went back to 2020, but I had some things that I had to delete just to make sure everything was. I did dot some I's, cross some T's.
I hear you. All right. So something exciting for Nash that just happened recently. Talk to us about this. I mean, you do Twitter. You're pretty popular on Twitter. I see your stuff all the time. Checked out a little bit of your YouTube stuff, but you got a new show going on. Talk to us a little bit about what's going on new for Nash.
There's a lot of things going on new for Nash this year, but I just started doing a morning show with the Orange Bloods, 6:30 to 7:30. We might be having to get a new name here. We'll see about that. But at the end of the day, tune into that. I'm Travis Gailey and then Aaron Little. I really love those dudes. They're two baseball guys just like me. So we're planning to run this thing out all year round, Monday through Friday. But also going to be, like I kind of alluded to it a little bit with my channel. YouTube made me do some stuff. I'm moving all my game clips to a new channel. It's just called Texas Clips. Same looking logo. So it should be easy to find on my homepage and all that stuff.
Okay, sweet. So look for all of Nash's game videos, and I think you do like breakdowns and stuff, right, Nash? Like
I will be doing some breakdowns. We're keep your eye out for the next episode of the Orange Bloods one. We talked to Rice Guy. We did a little bit of a breakdown there, but I did some breakdowns last year. I'm going to continue to do these, but and I try to focus more on the statistics side of these things.
I got you. Okay, there's a lot of stat guys for Texas. A lot of smart dudes like to do the stat stuff. So
Nino's a good one.
Can you talk to us about the name of the show? Or I know you just said that was kind of in limbo. Are y'all able to talk about that right now?
No, yeah. Right now it's just Horns Up.
Okay, Horns Up show. Check them out.
There's not a YouTube show that's Horns Up, but there's a podcast that's also Horns Up. So we're figuring that stuff out.
Oh yeah, because I'm assuming at some point y'all will be throwing all that stuff up on podcast, right?
Nah, I have no idea. I'm just
okay. Well, that's cool, man. Nash, thanks for joining us.
I'm the recording monkey.
Oh, I hear you. All right, well, so let's get into it. So I alluded to it a minute ago. I talked about man, I was scrolling through Twitter one day, and this is something that Texas fans argue about all the freaking time. It comes up at least 2 or 3 times a year. It always comes up right before football season, and then it'll come up again at some point during the football season when somebody does this. These alternate uniforms. You've got some very passionate people on both sides of this discussion from a Texas perspective. Nash throws something up, and I don't even remember exactly what it was, but I think it was like, why can't we do some uniforms with a black, whatever? And he got a lot of feedback from it. And I was like, dude, I got to get you on the show. Talk to us about these alternate uniforms. What's up with them? What do you like so much about the alternate uniform idea?
No, it's just, look, it's just this mentality. It's not even me arguing for alternate uniforms. It's this mentality of Texas fans. I mean, reality is it's battered fan syndrome. Like we're sitting here holding on to nostalgia from the 2005 team, and we won't let it go. And
that's
I mean, and
the
like my only point with that tweet is I was showing off all the historic like blue blood programs that have all done. They've all done at one point or another. They've all gone and done an alternate uniform or something that historical, and we've even done something. We've even done some similar things, but it's just this idea that we can't change the uniform and all that stuff. I don't really care. At the end of the day, it's just like, and this is where I told you in the DMs. I don't know if I can give you too much on it because this is literally all my stance is if the players want it, let them get it. I don't care. Like I'm not out there running around on the field, and I subscribe to the Deion Sanders quote: "If you look good, you feel good, and you feel good, you play good."
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something to that, definitely. And I thought it was interesting. And now I remember that you said that. It was like you've got all these other teams that have done, these historically blue blood programs that also probably have a ton of tradition, a lot of, tradition in their uniform, all those types of things. But you're right. A lot of schools have used alternate uniforms. And you know what I like as a compromise is like the throwback stuff. You're probably too young to remember this, but in 2005 against Louisiana Lafayette to kick the season off, they wore some really sweet throwbacks, black shoes, really simple tops with just some white stripes on the shoulders. They looked really good in those uniforms. So I get it. I also get the side that says, because I'm a kind of a traditional dude as well. I may not look like it, but I'm super old. But I get like, this is what we do. This is how we do things. But I also kind of agree with your take on if the players want to do it, who cares? Why do the fans have so much buy into it? Just so you know, I did a Twitter poll, and I've only got like 5 Twitter followers. So this is like terribly inaccurate, very small sample size. I did a poll. I said, alternate uniforms, yes, no. What was the other one? There was like 4 answers. Yes, no, I don't know, and then like I don't care or something like that. And 58% said no, and 42% said they didn't care. I don't know if that means they're like you and they're kind of just like whatever the players want, let them do it. But anyway, I thought it was interesting, and I thought you got a lot of engagement on it, and so I wanted to talk about it. And you're right, there's not a whole lot to talk about with uniforms, but I just thought it was interesting. It made me laugh because I used to be on a lot of different, I used to be on the ESPN boards back in the day, and you'd always have these Longhorn fans that were like just completely adamant. We are not doing it. We should never do it. It should never happen. We don't need gimmicks.
It's just, I think it's something that comes from us not winning. I honestly think if we win, I think the fans are just like, okay, I don't give a shit. Like, I don't care.
They may now for sure. But I can tell you back in the early 2000s, even when Texas, sort of the glory years of the Mac Brown era, there was a lot of conversation. That's why it was so interesting to me and so funny.
I mean, and you can even look at the 2000. If you go look at the Alabama game, we were the 2009 Alabama game. We were wearing I don't know if we were wearing them the entire season, but I didn't notice them until the Alabama game. But we were wearing some like metallic golden, or not golden cleats, but like some metallic orange cleats that, they didn't look normal. So, I mean, it's just like at the end of the day, like that, we used to kind of do these things, and then it's just like, no, we gotta, like what happened was when we started, it was when they started brightening up the orange and then the metallic orange, they brought that in. That's when fans were.
Yeah, I could see that. And I also think maybe Oregon, schools like Oregon kind of completely overdid it where they have like, I think when you say alternates now, people think to Oregon football and they go, man, we don't want 65 uniforms. Like we don't want to be able to play for a decade and never wear the same uniform. And I think that may be some of the pushback as well, is kind of the slippery slope effect. You know, you do something out of step just a little bit, and then all of a sudden you start doing a little more, and then it's completely out of hand. And all of a sudden, like Texas is wearing all black or something. I don't know. Anyway, what's your last word on the unis?
I mean, I think I actually have I do kind of have a take on this. I think the best alternate uniforms that exist, like when you go and look at them, really, like the teams that put out the best ones consistently are the military schools. But it's whenever a school is honoring something, when they have a reason to do it. You know, when they're saying, "Hey, there's this team and we want to honor it," and this is something that this is obviously where I would disagree. I actually wouldn't mind seeing these seeing for one game like a very like old school looking throwback looking uniform, where I think Alabama, Notre Dame, Michigan, and a couple others, these like other like real blue blood schools, they've done this where the helmets they have these like they're all one color, and they look like the old school helmets. You know, they have a little bit of a difference in the sheen and color to make them look like those old school, leather dome helmets with the stripes that go down the sides. But
yeah,
I mean, that's just like, and then like at the same time, like I do kind of agree with Texas fans. Like one, we've seen some alternate uniforms that, and this is my whole thing is like, we've actually already had alternate uniforms, and the fans that we can't have alternates. Well, we've already had one.
yeah.
The one with the numbers on the top, that's an alternate uniform. I mean, like it's like, but and then that also goes to where I'm saying I think like Texas fans too. Unless it's honoring like these great years, they don't want to see anything changed up.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. And I think, if your generation keeps pressing, I think one day, all of us old people will be dead after a while, and you guys can get y'all's alternate uniforms. Let's talk about 2023. We've been waiting all season. We're ranked 11th going into the season, favored to win the Big 12 by a lot of different people. A lot of different pundits have picked Texas to win the Big 12. Sark's been here. This will be his third year. He's got his staff together. I think he's only lost 2 guys off his original staff those 3 years that he's been here. He's got his team. He's had 2 really, really good recruiting classes, back-to-back, 2 top 5 classes. Everything seems to have kind of lined up for Texas this year. What are your thoughts on the season?
I mean, I'll start with the rank. I think that the rank really tells us. And if you look at how each individual poll voter had voted for Texas, and I mean, I talked about this a little bit on a video. I think that there's some poll voters that are going to try and they're saying, hey, this is how team is right now, right? I'm thinking like day one, and then there's some poll voters that are trying to say, you know what, this is my prediction for the end of the year, how the season's going to pan out, where this team's going to end up. But if you look at the poll voters, majority of them are right there in that 14 to 11 range. And then there's the same amount of voters that are like, nope, you're 15 and up. And then there's the same amount of voters on the other side that are, it's like not, I think the lowest we go is 7, which is interesting, is one of the guys that voted for us at 7 is one of the guys that's been the most negative on Texas in the polls in recent history is Kirk Bowles. So
yeah.
I think what that showed me was there's a lot of voters that, hey, we don't know what you're going to do. You probably should be a top 10 team, but until like it's just you gotta show us something. But this talent, I've been consistently saying this. If you put this roster on another, if you were to slap the Michigan logo, you slap the Penn State logo, any Clemson, whatever, any of these schools, that even a USC logo, I mean, this is a easy top 17, probably top 5.
Yeah, I think the roster is put together really well. I think it's not only just a talented roster, but it's a talented roster in the right spots. I mean, I've talked about it multiple times over the course of the last year. And actually, I haven't even been doing this a year. I started the week after the Red River Shootout last year. But I say the last year I've been talking about, Texas always gets this bad rap for always having really good recruits and always having really good recruiting classes and not doing anything with it. And I've always kind of said, I think that's a little bit fair, but I also can see the other side of it. You got to have the talent in the right places. Herman, Strong, they went after skill guys like it was nobody's business, and they just let the trenches just erode away. And so when Steve Sarkisian got here, he had to rebuild that. And I think now, at least from a talent perspective, there's probably, there's 8 to 10 guys on the offensive line that are really, really good and can go play football at any point in time during this season. And then you've probably got, there's probably 4 guys inside on the defensive line that are really good. And then I think there's 3 defensive ends, the edge guys that the coaching staff is really high on and really trust to be able to go out there and perform. And that's what you got to have to go play football. The days of lining up the same 5 guys the entire game ain't happening anymore. It's going to be 100 degrees plus Saturday when they kick the ball off against Rice, and down on the field, it's probably going to be 120, 125 degrees. Those same 5 guys can't play the whole game. So you got to have a lot of depth to be really solid in college football. Then you look at teams like Georgia and Alabama. That's why those teams are so good. They can trot their second and third string guys out there, and it's like nothing changes. So I agree, man. I think the team is put together really well, but I'm also, you said it, you got to go out there and show us. And I've been kind of saying that all year too. And I think a lot of Texas fans are like that. We're just kind of, we've heard these things before. We've seen us have good rosters. We've had a lot of hype going into seasons before, although I don't think it's been quite as hyped up as it has been this year, very recently. But yeah, I want Steve Sarkisian to go and show us what he's got. And I think
like Rick and Morty, show me what you got.
yeah. I mean, it's time for, it's kind of time for him to, kind of put up or shut up, really. I mean,
yeah. I mean,
when he got here, everybody knew there was a rebuild.
Put up or shut up time.
Yeah. And so, and I think it's a pivotal year for him from a recruiting perspective as well. He's been able to come in and recruit really well just based off of the staff he has, the fact that he's at the University of Texas, the fact that he has had great success as a coordinator very recently. There's a lot of things in his favor recruiting, but I think a lot of that capital sort of starts to wear away with recruits. Maybe not this recruiting class if they don't have such a great season, but I think the 2025 and on guys start to go, man, like he's got a lot of talent there. They're not producing. I may not be as likely to go to a school like that. What are your thoughts on that?
You're dead on. A lot of people, they like a lot of non-Longhorn fans will pine over the fact that we fired Tom Herman in the 7-3 season. We fired Tom Herman after the 7-3 season when we had 0 recruits in the class. Yeah. And if we did have 1 recruit, we knew that guy was already jumping ship. And the dudes were decommitting left and right. And this was all before we ever lost to Iowa State. So Tom Herman could have gone 8-2, saved his job, and then really had to try and do some work on the recruiting trail. And it's scary to think about. I mean, now granted, you did have guys like Jatavian Sanders in that class. You had some good names in that class, but there's been a lot of guys that had to be purged. But the talent, like you said, the depth the roster has, this is like Steve Sarkisian has built up real NFL talent depth, and he's done it quickly. And it just in a blink of an eye, it's already here. This is a team that could at the end of the year. I know it sounds crazy right now, but this could be one of those. Oh well, crap! Yeah, in hindsight, 2020, yeah, this team was right up there with the early 2000s teams. Yeah, the NFL draft pick talent is there's a lot of it on this roster.
Yeah, I was on a show. I did the Spurs Up show with Chris Phillips earlier this summer, and to talk, Texas going to the SEC and all that kind of stuff. And man, he asked me a question, and he was like, if Texas can go into Bama and win that game, what do you think that means for Texas? And I sat there for a second, and I said, man, if Texas goes into Tuscaloosa and beats Alabama the second week of the season, I think that could mean, not saying it will, but I think you could see this Texas team go undefeated at the very least wind up in a playoff. It was kind of surprising that I said that, but I think talent wise, you look at the roster, you look at the coaching staff, you got to think that's the type of ceiling this team has.
I mean, oh yeah, easily. I mean, I've been sitting here thinking there's a chance that Texas, and this would, I mean, it'd have to be. I think that there'd have to be some really, really good looking teams, and there'd be a lot of discussion for Texas to go 11-1 and to miss the college football playoff.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that 11-1, winning the Big 12 championship, so ending up 12-1.
Yeah, I agree.
It
would be tough to keep them out.
There are some people that think that there's even Longhorn fans, and I think this goes to think about the Badgers fans. Like it's like something that we can't even think like to a lot of Longhorn fans, this is just it's not even like conceivable.
Oh,
like
I know.
The idea it's just so far fetched of an idea. I don't even want to think about it. I don't want to be hurt.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I'm ready to be hurt again. I'm ready to be hurt again every year. I do this every year to myself. But I am really excited about this team. I think all the pieces are in place, and kind of, you're talking about the battered fan syndrome. How cool would it be if just kind of out of the blue, last year was okay, 8-5. We played some really close games. Actually, we played a lot of really close games. Could have won several of those games if just a few small things during the game go a different way. So the season last year could have looked a lot different than it wound up looking, but 8-5 is much better than the first season. And it's better than the junk we were seeing in the Chuck Strong era, and even at some points in the Tom Herman era. But how badass would it be if this team, I think what Texas fans need is like a TCU type season where nobody expects them to go to the level that they go, and they do it anyway. And I think, what I've seen a lot of guys talk about is 9-3, 10-2, maybe. How cool would it be if this team found a way to go to Tuscaloosa, win that game, walk out of there with a win, and then from there, like, the sky's the limit, because that's probably the toughest team you're going to play the rest of the season. Now, granted, just beating Alabama doesn't mean you're going to go do those things, but I think, man, that would build some solid confidence and solid momentum for this team.
I honestly don't think this. I think if this team does well, I don't think you can compare it to the TCU team, because TCU, if you look at it, the amount of things that they had to have go right, like they were one of the luckiest. Their luck rating, they were one of the luckiest teams in the last 20 years. And
absolutely. They reminded me a lot of that Ohio State team from, what was it, like 2000?
But I think there's people that already see that, like, this Texas team. There's a lot of people that say, "Hey, the upside is the playoffs." So I don't think that people were saying that about TCU last year. So
absolutely
I just think that's where I think it's a different. There's a little bit difference, but I do see what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, I think to get those guys that have the battered fan syndrome across the finish line, something very special is going to happen. It's almost like, and I talked about it on the show last week, how, during the early 2000s and during that national championship run, it was almost, it was fun to watch, but like at the end of every game, I found something to pick about. And there was always like, man, we got to be better here. We got to be better here. And sometimes it wasn't fun. And I feel like, Texas football is starting to get fun again. And how fun would it be to just, kind of shock the world and come from, Texas is back, because that's the narrative. Every single year the media tries to say Texas is back. A few fans may buy into it, but I think the majority of Texas fans are like, kind of like us, like, show us, we want to see it. But then the whole rest of the college football world jumps onto that narrative and acts like, we're running around going Texas is back. How cool would it be if Texas actually was back? It'd be awesome.
I'd be unbearable. You're not gonna.
Yeah, I will be unbearable. I will be if we do playoffs.
People.
Yeah, it's going to be rough, but I mean, I guess that's what college football and being a fan is all about. What do you think? What game are you looking most forward to this year? I mean, we've got Alabama on the road. I think that's a huge one. We're leaving the Big 12, so there's a lot of these Big 12 rivalries that we will leave behind. Some of them we won't get to play. Some of them we will get to play. Red River Shootout is always up on my list. I think the Texas Tech game, that last game of the season, is one that I think a lot of Texas fans are looking at as a very exciting game. And I think there's kind of two camps there. There's the traditionalists, the older guys that are like, man, we've been playing Tech forever. I hate to see that rivalry go. And then you've got the guys that are just pissed off because we lost that game in Lubbock last year. And I probably fall more into that camp than the other camp. I don't really care about Tech. I just don't like losing to Tech. So what are your thoughts on, the for you, what's the game you're most looking forward to this season?
I mean, obviously, it's obviously going to be the Bama one for me, but to go with a kind of like a to try and shake some things up and get a little bit of discussion in here. I think the BYU game could end up being one of the more fun games of the year. And the reason why I say that is because I think that's a situation where there's a legit chance that Texas is 7-0 and we're out of the bye. We've beaten Oklahoma, we've beaten Alabama. And this is our first home game where it's like, okay, this is real.
Yeah.
Things are real, And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where you could really see some fun atmospheres and fun environments. Right after BYU is Kansas State.
Yep.
I think that one that has a chance to maybe cause some more nervousness than fun. But I think that
those are
BYU
two
game has.
those are two gritty programs, and they're
Yeah, no,
physical
BYU.
programs, and they're going to show up and they're going to punch you around until they can't do it anymore. I don't know if you're old enough to remember what BYU did to us back in the
No, I
early
know.
2000s or
I know what he did to Dylan. I
teens.
know what Taysom Hill did to Dylan Haynes, and
Yeah.
but it's like, but here's the thing. One thing that gives me optimism for us going against BYU is BYU they have some really hard games right before us, and really this is like the Big 12. I don't know if they did this intentionally or not, but there's a good chance that the Big 12 goes through some cannibalism. You have all in the last, back into the schedule, last stretch: TCU, Kansas State, Texas Tech, Texas, and then BYU might be a little bit out there, but for the most part, they're in there. I mean, you're talking about the five of the top 7 teams. They're all going to be playing each other right in that back end of the schedule. So it's like that's where you could have a lot of undefeated teams. You could have some good number of undefeated teams that are, hey, the Big 12 race, this is wide open. And
Yeah.
every single game is going to matter.
Yeah, absolutely. And I liked what you said about the atmospheres. I think, I remember going to games again. We've been season ticket holders for a long time. We started as season ticket holders actually in 2005. Had them till 2010, I believe, and then re-upped them a few years ago when Sark got hired. And so we've been to a lot of games, right? And some of these games were just boring to be at, to be quite honest, because Texas was either so good, the opponent was so bad. A lot of people left at halftime, but there were some really good environments back in the day, like the Mizzou game that was at home that one year when Mizzou was so highly rated. There's been some Tech games that we've been to that ended up being really close games. I'm thinking back to 2002, I believe, when Chance Mock came off the bench and kind of bailed Vince Young out and won that game against Tech. So there have been some really good environments. I think the Alabama game last year was like the most intense college football game I've ever been to at DKR. Certainly, the Red River Shootout's always pretty wild, but and I think you're right. I think for that BYU game, if we're in that situation like you kind of described, 7-0, 6-1, whatever it is, maybe we lost the game to Bama or close game to Bama. Texas fans are going to be wild about that BYU game for multiple reasons. Not just the what's ahead of us factor, but like that revenge factor against BYU, because a lot of us, we still remember that. Those were two very, very embarrassing games for Texas football.
I mean, I think for the fans, that's going to be there's going to be a little bit of that going on, but I wonder how much the players remember that.
They won't.
I
The
know
players won't care
during
at all.
the Ellinger, I know Sam Ellinger knows about it. If you remember the whole Twitter thing with Dylan Haynes back in the day, but
yeah.
I here's the deal: I feel like this is also one of these weird things because it's like Steve Sarkisian, former BYU guy. Like there's going to be, I just think it'll be interesting.
There'll be a lot of hype for the game. I believe. I'm with you on that. All right, we're headed into the season. What are your keys? I've got 5 myself, and actually I had 6 written down that I talked about on my show last week. But if Texas winds up having a successful, and by successful I mean when I say if Texas has a successful 2023, to me that's Big 12 championship, maybe a New Year's Six bowl, outside fringe, playoff would be super awesome. Obviously, very successful season. What are your keys to this season for Texas?
Well, I'll start with to me, I've talked about how talented this team is. I think anything less than New Year's Six bowl, and I mean, you'd have to have some good reasons for why you're not like you gotta win the conference championship and or be in the playoff. Like that is just there's too much talent on this team. Like last year's team, we should have beat Texas Tech. We should have finished things with Oklahoma State. Had 31-17 leads on both those. 1 point loss to Alabama, number 1 ranked Alabama. A 7-point loss to number 4 ranked TCU. So really, we should have been 10-2 with 8-point loss to 2 top 4 teams, and that's 8 points total. So, I mean, like it's just this is where I say 10-2. It's 10-2. The time for 10-2 was last year. And gotcha. If this team is going to take a step forward, that I think that means you go 11-1 or 12-0. And I think part of the reasons why we didn't achieve 10-2 last year is we had some depth issues. I mean, you look at this, like look at how much losing Nair got lost, like how much that impacted us. Well, now we get Nair and we got A.D. Mitchell. And then you also got a young freshman by the name of Jonte Cook, who's pretty damn good. Yep. But so to get to my keys for the season is 1, you gotta win the money downs on offense and defense. You gotta the time for we have to play to our level. We can't fall down to the opponent's level. Effort's got to be on max every single play that you're out there. And then that's really the details. 4th is details. You got to no mental lapses. Because, I mean, you look at TCU. Really, the Quentin Johnston play, that's the play that really did us in. That was a mental lapse by Anthony Cook. So if he doesn't make that, I mean, maybe that's no. If he doesn't make that, Jade's fumble recovery is a game-tying score. So, and then 5th is special teams. Now, special teams has been amazing under Jeff Banks, with exception for the kicking. We just need we need the consistent field goals. Like I just want to be able to, and then also punting too. Trejo, he was all right, but he was not as good as a lot of people make him out to be.
Yeah, I think Sanborn coming on is a big pickup in the special teams game. It's interesting. You talked about the money downs. I consider the money downs, especially on defense, 3rd and long. And 3rd and long has plagued Texas for years now. I mean, I don't know. I haven't gone back and looked at every season and said what the percentage was of 3rd and longs we've given up, but we have to be in the top 20% of the country over the last decade in giving up 3rd and long plays. You look at the Texas Tech game last year. There was 2 1/3 and 1/4 of the fields that Tech converted on. 1, they actually completed a pass, The other, they drew pass interference and got a first down. But it's like over and over again, this defense is so good on first and second. They get them in these situations, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, and they just cannot get off the field. So I think it's cool that you mentioned the money downs. Offensively on those money downs is like, 3rd and short, 4th and short, obviously. Being able to push, get some push along the offensive line. They've got to be better at that. I think Quinn Ewers is a huge key. His development over the last year as he heads into the second season at Texas, he's got to be a lot better. He's got to be able to distribute the ball better. And the thing is, he has all the weapons in the world. He's just got to play within the system and distribute the ball to these weapons. Let them go make the plays. I think last season, Quinn was he was a freshman, obviously. He was inexperienced. And I think, Steve Sarkisian wants to get the ball down the field so much that I think he battered that into his head. And Quinn was like, I'm going to get the ball down the field. And sometimes it was really pretty. Other times it was really ugly. And I think on a lot of those balls that went downfield, maybe unnecessarily, there was guys open underneath that could pick us up yardage. I want to see his sort of maturity continue that way. It looks like he's done a lot of work with himself physically. By all accounts, he said, he's really embraced the mental aspect of the game. That's where I want to see Quinn Ewers get better, because there's no doubt the kid can make every single throw there is out there. He's got arm talent for days. He's just got to get it between his ears. Here's what I need to do. Let's get this guy the ball and let him go run.
Yeah, and honestly, I'd even include 4th downs on the money downs, because if you look at Texas Tech, we did give up some 3rd down and longs,
Yeah,
but statistically, it looks amazing.
Conversion.
Statistically, we had like, I don't know, it was like 3 first downs and on 12 attempts. So it's like you look at, oh wow, we did great versus them. Wait, how did they get that many first downs though? Oh, because they got to 3rd and short, and then they went 3rd and long to 4th and short, and then they get the ball across. So, and this is where I like to include 4th down conversions with 3rd down conversions, because it doesn't matter if you like. What good is a 3rd down stop if you give it up on 4th down?
Yeah, and teams will do it. Teams are going to keep doing it until Texas shows they can stop it. What was really frustrating to me in that game was just we played off so far on those 4th and shorts. We basically just gave them 2-yard hitch all day long to pick up those plays. I don't know. I mean, I almost was watching this game and thinking to myself, are the coaches like surprised still that they're going to go for it on 4th down? Because it was almost like it was almost like they weren't prepared for it. It's hard to go 6 for 8 on 4th down conversions, and Tech did it, and they made it look really easy. I would like to see us get up more in those wide receivers' faces in those type of situations. I don't think Tech was a big threat down the field last year. Certainly not big enough that you play 5-10 yards off the ball on 4th and short. But yeah, I agree with you though. 4th downs have got to be, all the money downs have got to be better.
Yeah. And then I'll also like to speak about the offense. Quinn Ewers, those intermediate throws, you want to see more of those. But I think really like Jeff Banks, they were right. The opportunity was there for the deep ball. The execution just didn't come through.
Yeah, that's true.
And
true.
That's where like Steve Sarkisian, you could tell they were really talking about the Oklahoma State game, and they were saying, hey, we're like, the defense is providing it, and it makes a lot of sense. We had just absolutely just burned them on the ground in the first half for like to the tune of like 120 yards or something like that with Roschon and Bijan Robinson.
Yeah, 2 long touchdown runs.
Yeah, and then we don't get anything else in the second. It might have even been 161 yards in the first half, but then hardly scraps in the second half, and we're doing a ton of pass attempts. Well, I mean, it makes sense because the defense, the halftime game plan was, hey, well, let's stop the run. The run is killing us, and passing's not.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Execution's just got to be there.
You're 100% right. They've got to be able to execute better, and I think a lot of that goes back to maturity and just being in the system. Executing the passing offense doesn't necessarily mean throwing the ball 40 yards, 45 yards down the field. There's a lot of things open on a lot of different plays. So it'll be interesting to see how Quinn does there this season. No doubt he's got weapons. He should not have any shortage of places to try to get the ball. He's got more weapons than I think. I honestly, there are more weapons in the wide receiver core on this team than I think Texas has ever had. And I'm even thinking about like back in the triplets days when Roy Williams was here with Sloan Thomas and BJ Johnson. Those were three really talented guys. And I think this wide receiver core has got more talent across the board than those guys.
I can tell you right now, just give me 5 seconds and I can actually pull up a little statistic thing that I did. And that was the 2003 season. The most wide receivers that we've ever had in one season. That was most NFL draft pick wide receivers on one team in one season was 2003, and that was 3 wide receivers. You look at this year, there's a chance that we have 5.
Yeah. It's loaded.
Like Xavier Worthy, Jonte Cook, A.D. Mitchell, Isaiah Nair, and Jordan Whittington. Those 5.
And that's not even counting DeAndre Moore, who
yes, and then that's where you're not even counting guys like the long shot guys that. And when I'm saying a freshman, I'm counting freshmen as long shots just because and this is where I was in a group chat with some people and I was telling them, look, I'm trying to be conservative here, right? I'm not trying to be this nut job Longhorn fan that's everybody that comes here is going to be drafted and all that stuff. No, but at the end of the day, it's looking like that.
Yeah, no, the talent is certainly there. Did you watch game day last Saturday? I'm assuming you did.
I watched a little bit, bits and pieces.
So right at the end of game day, they were going through all the conferences, and I don't watch it religiously, but I just happened to be in the room when it was on. I'm usually running around getting ready for the day, for college football day and all that, but they started going through all the conferences and giving their picks, and every last person on the panel picks Texas to win the Big 12. Then they start talking about their playoff picks. Desmond Howard picks Texas to be in the playoffs. So I'm wondering if we should brace for like a 5-7 season, or is Desmond going to get it right this time? So again, a lot of expectations. The one that I thought was interesting was Herb Street, and he even made a comment. I'm going to say this, and it might be one of those that comes back to bite me, but I got to pick Texas to win the Big 12. But the interesting thing is on his special show that he does at the beginning of every season, he's taking the under on Texas with 9.5 wins. All being successful aside, do you think there's any way possible that the Big 12 champion this year has less than 9 wins? Or less than 10 wins, rather?
Yeah. I mean, like I said just a minute ago, I can actually try and pull this up. I might have it right here. Yeah, tough stretch right here. Yeah, and from October 14th, you have Texas Tech and Kansas State play each other. October 21st, Kansas State and TCU. November 4th, you got Texas Tech and Kansas State are going to play each other. Texas Tech and TCU. Sorry, I got this all wrong. Texas Tech and October 14th, Texas Tech and Kansas State. TCU and Kansas State the next week. Then you got Texas, Kansas State 2 weeks after that. TCU and Texas Tech that same week. Texas and TCU. And then after that, Texas Tech and Texas Tech and Texas. So, I mean, it's just that's a lot of good teams in a short amount of time playing each other. And they could, this is where I said, that there's some cannibalism that can happen here, and you're not even counting in BYU into that. So, I mean, this is just – and it's the thing is also, too, is it's not even the fact that these teams have to play each other. They have to play each other in such a condensed period. I mean, it's just – but at the end of the day, I do think that this is something that could end up helping Texas if we were to be a playoff team, going through that, those tough stretches of games. And it's not going to be an easy road. But if you make
Yeah,
it there, you're going to have, you're going to have had some experience.
absolutely. Yeah, we'll see. I kind of think I think 10 wins is what's going to take to win the Big 12 championship. But you do make a good point, and we'll see what happens with that stretch towards the end of the season. So there's been a lot going on about the hate from those left behind. I know you've seen it on Twitter. You got especially from the Texas Tech fans. They're just really fired up about Texas leaving the Big 12. You got the commissioner's comments about pointing out to Joey McGuire, you guys need to take care of business. What are your thoughts as a Texas fan on this last Big 12 farewell tour that Texas is about to go on? What are your thoughts on all this nonsense?
I've been asked about this so many times at this point. It doesn't bother me. I know it bothers some Texas fans, but it is what it is. The guy I've been cheering for the Big 12 because they've been making some. I don't want to see these teams die. I don't want to see the conference die.
Sure,
but I'm not some big Big 12 homer or anything like that. But it just at the end of the day, the Big 12 after getting rid of not Brett Bowlesby, but Bob Bowlesby. After getting rid of him, they were making it was just Brett Yormark was adding all these teams, doing great, just great moves for the conference. The Big 12 is going to be an amazing basketball conference, still moving forward, and it was just such an unnecessary comment. That's just all it is for me. Is now he's just opened himself to controversy. If there's a close play or anything that happens versus Texas Tech, there was already going to be controversy. But now you've given reason for the controversy, and it's just at the end, if it happens, there's no one to blame but himself for opening his mouth and making those comments.
Yeah, I when I saw it initially, I was like, I didn't see the video at first. I saw some commentary with the video posted on Twitter, and I didn't really pay much attention to it at first until I started kind of seeing some arguments back and forth between some Texas Tech fans and some Texas fans on Twitter. And then I checked it out, and I was like, I cannot believe he said that. You're the commissioner of the conference, not just some random dude that's speaking at the Texas Tech kickoff party or whatever the hell that was he was speaking at. You're the commissioner of the Big 12. I don't think we've ever seen it. And I said it on my show last week, and so far nobody's let me know otherwise. I don't think we've ever seen a conference commissioner openly root against one team in his conference in favor for another team in his conference. That's got to be unprecedented. So I thought it was really unprofessional. And I agree with your point about, kind of leaving yourself open to not look so great if something does go crazy with that last game of the season from an officiating perspective or just whatever. I think it's just I want to believe that he just kind of made an off the cuff comment and just really didn't think it through. But there's a lot of people that feel like everything he said was very calculated and he's trying to promote the Big 12. I really don't know because I don't know him, but I did think it was a crazy thing to say. And me personally, as far as the Big 12 farewell tour, I hope if Texas can score 100 points on every Big 12 team they play, I hope they score 100 points on every Big 12. I hope they bury every last one of these teams as much as they can. I know that's not reality because I just don't think – I'm thinking what was it, 2008, Oklahoma Sooners, once they realized the only way they could get into the national championship game at that point was just to destroy everybody. And they scored they had 5 or 6 games in a row where they scored 60 points on their opponent, just absolutely shithoused every opponent they had the rest of that season. That's what I want to see out of Steve Sarkisian and the Texas Longhorns this year. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, man. I don't think there's anything malicious with the comments. I just think it was some. I think it was no further than I'm at Texas Tech. It's just a bunch of Texas Tech people. right? And this is, you know what, this is gonna get the people going, right? This is gonna get the crowd riled up. They're gonna be happy about it, and I no doubt, I bet you from the applause that was in the video, they were happy about it, and it was probably for what his thought was, and this is where I think that I don't think it was a big planned thing, because if it was planned, that they're gonna think, okay, what's the pushback on this and all that stuff.
Sure.
I think it was literally just something that he thought, you know what, this is gonna sound great. I'm gonna get some good buzz from this. And not even like good like media buzz, but just, you know, good room buzz. And then
Sure.
oh crap, yeah. You know what? After like realizing after the pushback, like maybe I might have messed up. But
yeah, I mean, he's a
I'm
promoter, he's a marketer by trade. So I think I think I could see both sides of it. Again, me just as a human being, I like to think the best in people as much as I can, and I just can't imagine he thought that was a good idea heading into it to say something like that. I think what's interesting, and then we'll kind of put this one to bed, but I think what's interesting is I haven't seen any comments afterwards by him that, you know, saying, you know, oops, or I don't think there's been any comment from him about that comment at all. Have you seen anything like that?
No, and I think that's the best way to do this is just to, I mean, there
Hope it goes away.
don't apologize. Like I mean, it's like, because if you actually look at this stuff, like, and I don't want to like go down a political rabbit hole and all that stuff, but like all the people that, like, if they ever get canceled or whatever and all that stuff, the people that never get canceled are the people that just don't, they literally just move on and don't do anything. Like it's just like, I mean, now sometimes there's egregious things that happen and all that stuff, and that's where the rabbit hole lies. But uh yeah, it's just, I think he did the right thing. Just like, you just don't talk about it, because at the end of the day,
Yeah, you said what you said.
this is
You're
where
not going to
he
change
messed
anybody's
up.
mind. Yeah.
You're not going to change anybody's mind. All you're going to do if you apologize is you're gonna end up pissing off some Texas Tech fans.
Yep.
Right. And so, but so now it's just, I think he's literally just sitting there, and I think this is actually one of the things where he's probably sitting there going, like, deep down, I think he's probably rooting for Texas now, because he doesn't want that can of worms open. Like he said, you know what, the can's open now. I just don't want them worms crawling out.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, we got a few minutes left. Week 1 opponent, Rice Owls. Texas is like a 35.5-point favorite, maybe 35 in some books, maybe 36 in some books. Rice has got 15 returning starters. What do we want to see besides a win? What do you want to see out of Texas this Saturday against the Rice Owls?
Man, I just want to see a good, clean game. No penalties. I want to see. I mean, they're like, I know this is Rice, and you know why does Rice play Texas and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, this is like, I just got done talking. Got a show coming out tomorrow with a Rice guy doing a Rice preview, and for Orange Bloods, and I mean, this is a team that by Rice's standards is a very talented team. This is probably one of their better teams that they've had. So this is no just like, I mean, and I'm not trying to sit here and say like it's going to be a close game or anything like that, but this is a game that could easily not be a clean game. And if I see that, that's going to raise some, it will raise some red flags, because you want as clean of a game possible going into Alabama.
Yeah, I think they want to be clean. I think they want to execute well. I'm with you on the penalties. The amount of procedure penalties and offsides penalties that Texas had last year was just way too much. Those are drive killers and they're drive extenders. You just can't do it. So I want to see the team be better there. And I want to see the offense execute at a high level, because I think, you know, you look at this game and you're right. Rice has some talented skill guys, and they have, you know, some experience on this team. There's some guys on this team that have played a lot of football, but what they don't have is they won't have the depth in the trenches that Texas has. They won't have the size and strength and athleticism in the trenches that Texas has. And so really for me to walk away from this game and be like happy with what happened during the game, I think you got to have no penalties. And Texas really needs to dominate both sides of the line of scrimmage. And by dominate, I mean just like absolutely dominate. And you can dominate a game and the score doesn't look that bad. So I won't judge. For me, I won't judge like whether this was a dominating performance by what the score says necessarily. I want to see those offensive linemen like getting some push, legit getting some push when they need to, not just on 2nd and 8 and Rice isn't sure what's about to happen. I'm talking if they get themselves in a situation where everybody in the stadium knows that ball is getting handed off, can Texas get some push? And then on the other side of the ball, can they do the same thing defensively? Can they hold that line of scrimmage and really get after the quarterback when he's going to pass? That's what I'm looking for. What else you got on that?
Yeah, I mean, this is the one area where really Rice and Texas, this is where Rice just doesn't probably have a chance versus Texas. Is the offensive line, defensive line.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even close. And that's why if you to your point, if you see some things, it's gonna raise some red flags for you. If we can't get push in those types of situations, I think that's a problem. If we are continuously jumping off sides and false starting against a team that we should physically dominate, I think that's a problem. It's a red flag. So yeah, and you're right. This needs to be like a very business-like. Let's go in there. Let's get this game over with by halftime. Let's let some guys get some experience, and then let's get ready for Alabama. And if we don't see that, there's going to be a lot of red flags. If we do see that, I'll probably have to bring you back on the show and we'll talk about those red flags because there will be a ton. We got to talk about JT Daniels real quick. So this is his 3rd time JT Daniels is coming to Austin to play for his 3rd different team. That's got to be a record. Absolutely has to be. And his 4th team overall, he hasn't fared so well at DKR. I think I saw something on Twitter the other day. In 2 games, he's thrown like 96 yards total. So he hasn't fared well. What kind of chances do you give JT Daniels in DKR on Saturday? You think he's going to do much better?
It's just, I think this is one of those deals where we need to see the defensive line get pushed versus this offensive line because and it has nothing to do with the fact that they're just so much more, like they're literally so much bigger. It's not even close. And so you need to get some, and they were not a good offensive line last year. So you need to get put, like of all the games that you never ever need to get pushed, this is one of those games where Baron Sorrell, I almost call him Brian, but it's one of those games where Baron Sorrell, hey, you go out there and you try and this is a pad the stats game, right? This is hey, I want to be the first one to get 10 plus sacks since Cedric Reed and blanking on it's a CFL guy. I'm gonna be pissed that I can't. Jeff Goat, Jackson Jeff Goat. But so I'll be the first double-digit sack guy to get double-digit sacks since then. Get 2 or 3 in your bag. But JT Daniels, he's gonna have his best performance today.
He's got some weapons on the outside. I think it goes back to can that offensive line hold up whatsoever, and they shouldn't. And I think I think that's a huge advantage for Texas, and that's where you look at traditionally, since the early 2000s when Rice and Texas play, the good Texas teams just mow right over the top of Rice on both sides of the ball. And it's never close. So
the game is won in the trenches.
Absolutely. I'm an ex-offensive lineman and defensive lineman, so I care about that. All right, JT Daniels aside, what's your prediction for this game? What do you think we're going to see? Score and just commentary.
I try to not do predictions, and what I mean by that is I try to save them for Fridays.
Fair enough.
But I will say, as far as the money line goes, I think it's 33.5 or something like that. It's right in that neighborhood. I think I'd take the over on the money line. I think we're gonna.
Yeah, I think Texas will
beat
cover
that spread.
Yeah, I think Texas will cover
the spread.
All right, man. Nash, I appreciate you coming on the show today. You guys can check out,
man.
Yeah, you guys can check out Nash at Nash Talks Texas at Twitter. You can check him out at Nash Talks Texas on YouTube. Thursday, we're going to have another show, recruiting updates. There's a big commitment coming up. Dominic McKinley on September 1st. A lot of buzz about he may end up going to A&M. A lot of buzz about he may end up going to OU. Tons of crystal balls for Texas. We won't know till Friday, but we're excited about it. We'll talk about that on Thursday. We'll do some Big 12 predictions. I'll do my Rice game prediction on Thursday. And then we'll have our top 3. It's just 3 games outside of the Texas game that I'm interested in every week. Check us out on YouTube. Subscribe to the podcast at Buzzsprout. Check us out on Twitter at Horn Takes. You can email me at horntakespodcast@gmail.com with all your comments, concerns, questions, and criticisms. I love them all. You guys have a good one. Thanks, Nash. Hook 'em.
I appreciate it, man. Hook 'em.